When she asked me to speak with you folks, I kind of thought I'd go over it real quick. I spent time on the Maui Planning Commission, so it's interesting to hear about the rubber stamping that takes place at that level.
Did you ever not approve something?
Absolutely not. Well, actually, we almost did. We almost turned down North Beach. There were 5 of us who actually stood together as a group and said, we tried 3 times to turn it down. We actually moved 3 times to say no to North Beach. And we were stopped every time. It was always something, you know, the microphone went out, or it was really strange. Anyway, what I'd like to do is give you a little context of why we are where we're at right now. Back in the 60s, Hawaii was the first state to go and get a statewide zoning system. Before the 60s, things were pretty much cars just catch can, things just grew kind of organically within the cities and towns and stuff. In the 60s is when it came into vogue to create zones and a zoning code where everything is then separated out into various, whether you can have residential, commercial, or whatever. So at that point, Hawaii decided to become, you know, very forward-thinking, I guess, and they were first to do a statewide zone. So we zoned all the lands in the state. And as you mentioned, the agricultural lands and these others, these were all based, though, on a faulty history of these lands. They had all these agricultural lands that were set aside, not because they were good for agriculture, but because they had been used for agriculture by these big agricultural companies. So all of a sudden you had land use, you know, designations based not on what the land is good for, but what it had been economically used for. So that's been one of the big things that went wrong. The other thing that went wrong was actually the development process. What you talked about in the rubber stamping of it is that's the type of process we have. We, as a planning commission, don't get any of these projects until 2 weeks before it's to be approved. And that's when the public out here gets to take a look at it as well. So we're in the same boat. Here we have 2 weeks to read all this stuff, and it's already gone through at least half a dozen agency reviews for the state and the county who have already said yes, 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 yes. So basically, for us to say no, we'd have to come up with very strong legal reasons to say not that we don't think it's a good idea, but that it's legally against all those yeses. So if we have a process that loads the public participation as well as even public review and comment through these planning commissions and all at the end. So what you have is something that basically you have the developer has to come up with a plan that supposedly matches the community plan. Then you have the planning department trying to see if it does, if it goes by the community plan and the language as well as the zoning maps. So it's very complicated, it's very obtuse, and it's everything at the end to actually have the public have any kind of a say. So what the real problem is, and I've heard many people talk about the developers and landowners, it's us. It's the land use policies that we have in place and our land use development system, our permitting system, that is the real problem. They're only following the law. This whole wall of condos that was developed here, from the 60s on, that was the zones. That was the land use. That was the process that we had for developing more. So we have to look at ourselves. We're the ones who put those laws into place. We need to take them out. So, let me get my notes here. So that's our first goal, is to really look at where the problem lies. We can attack everybody, the developers, the landowners, all these people. We can talk to the people who are on GPAC, as you're saying, we can talk to the council and all. But until we change those laws, we're not going to get anywhere. Because we're going to still have to follow those laws and those requirements. So, first of all, we have to look at that. And the GPAC really does give us an opportunity to look at getting rid of them. I've been talking about that the whole time I've been on there. Okay, let's get rid of the zoning. Just get rid of it. No more resort zoning, no more commercial zoning, no more commercial, residential, industrial. Get rid of it. What we want to look at is neighborhoods. Neighborhoods that develop into towns, and that they have all the transportation choices they need to stay in a small neighborhood and a town. And that includes walking, biking, transit, and the auto. But they have to be equal, and the auto has to be included. So when they talk about public participation, and I was interested to hear that they actually say that they are working with you to rework this plan. Take advantage of that. If he says that they are, well then do. Work directly with these people. You know, we keep trying to work with them through this fake, structure we have of you have to go through the council, or you have to go through the planning, or you have to go through this GPAC, or, and somehow we can talk to each other 3 minutes at a time, to what we want to see happen. It doesn't work. We can't really communicate. And really, a lot of these landowners and developers, whether they say it or not, they do want to see success here. And they realize success is going to be partly really based on community acceptance as well as buy-in. And they're not going to get that with the type of process we have now. All these projects that you mentioned are on the thing, they're just still following the same plans. They're still following the same laws, because that's all they have. They don't have a choice. So we need to engage with them directly. Go to them and say, this is what we'd like to see. I talked to Jeff Hunt, our planning director, and I asked him about the GPAC public participation. We're just about through with the overall, wish list about what we want. This is the vision of what we'd like to see in so many nice ways. Nice place, apple pie, all that stuff. The next step, starting in June, will be the actual Maui Island plan. That's where the rubber hits the road. That's where we talk about urban growth boundaries. That's where we talk about the types of transportation choices, transportation corridors. That's where we talk about specific plans. Where do we want what? So the idea is engage with the developers now. Sit down with them directly. Go and say, okay, you want us to help you rework this plan? We're here. We brought our tools. We brought our hammers and saws. We brought the ideas of smart growth, about the types of transportation choices we want, about the idea of what I call a green infrastructure. And that's really looking at all the stuff that you want to preserve as open space and green. Things like stream beds, wetlands, important cultural sites, historic sites, all those things put on a map so they can see how it all interconnects. And then that creates what you call your green infrastructure, which is then your framework for the built environment. That helps you show where you want to put development. Because here, say about Equal Point and stuff like that, this is actually part of an aqua that stretches all the way down, so we have to actually preserve this whole corridor. But then we can see, but over here, we have some land that is less productive or it has less of those things, and then this kind of informs where we do put development, so where we can develop. Because we have to